we had a wonderful casting director who, collected a lot of auditions for us in Mexico. And we did have descriptions of Frida's voice. So our production team collected, everybody that had spoken or written about what Frida's voice sounded like. You can see that she was a really heavy smoker, so she had like a raspy voice. But I think what we were looking for was this combination of, maturity and weight, somebody that had gone through a lot in her life and a lot of pain, but that had never really lost that curiosity that you hear about in her childhood. So we needed that combination of things. And then we heard Fernanda's audition, and it just even hearing kind of like the process that she went into, you could hear in the audition like how she went there and tried different things, and then we placed her voice against the visuals, and it was just magic. And then when we had a chance to work with her to be able to record the entire film, I think one smart decision we made was for me to be in the booth really close to her, because a lot of times, you have the booth and the actor is performing, with a mic, and then you're behind the window, and then giving directions. But I really wanted the sense that Frida was kind of talking. This is what I had in my mind. Frida was talking to a friend at the end of her life, and she was like just sharing all her secrets. And so that's where where we went during the recording of it.
That's perfect direction. All right, questions, preguntas over there. Okay.
Can you talk about the choices of the animation, how you made those, and choices of color in the black and white?
Choices of animation and choices of color versus black and white.
So it was really, from the beginning, it was really important for us to inject as much Mexico into this film, and we really wanted to work with Mexican collaborators as much as we could. Our composer is Mexican. We have a really important collaborator, co-producer, Adrian Gutierrez, and we really wanted the animation team to be in Mexico. We happened to find this group of mostly female animators through Instagram. We were actually meeting a few companies, but Katia found Maria Lumbreras on Instagram, and we saw what she did, so we messaged her on Instagram, and then she introduced us to other people that she had worked with, and that's how we formed the team. And then Renata Galindo and Sofia Cáceres, were the leads for the animation. The concept for the animation came from the very beginning. We knew that we wanted to hear it from Frida's voice, and the approach was like, how do we, get the viewer to, in a way, swim in her heart and really like get into her mind. And we knew that we wanted to do that through the paintings. So the way that we approached animation was, to be able to highlight. There's so many details in Frida's paintings, and everything has so much meaning. And everything is so connected to her life, her life lived experiences, that we really wanted to make those connections, tie that up in the film, and then highlight with movement, highlight those emotional details in her paintings. So that was the approach. Do you guys want to talk about, I think the color for the archival kind of started with this discovery of, of like, how do we really get into her persona as a kid, with, this like, I see the world in color thing.
Yeah, it became like a real storytelling technique that we started using in the edit, that and the diary as a device, a visual device. The diary was a little bit later that it really came to become something we really started to lean into as this like way to get intimacy from her.
Yeah.
And so the diary and color became like, okay, we maybe don't have a line that we need, or we want to create an idea here. How could we do that with color? How could we do that with like one line in her diary that just says exactly the emotion we want?
Yeah, and then color is always her spirit. We follow the color of our archival. When we take the color out of her paintings, it's always guided by how she's feeling or interacting with that, her world.
And I just want to say, I think the archival that you were looking for also, and a lot of the archival that was colorized, we were looking for very specific archival, like archival that was seeing the world through her eyes. So when we were in Mexico, we wanted archival that felt intimate, like archival that was shot by Mexicans in Mexico from that time.
Yeah.
So it was a really tall order, but Adrian, our archival producer in Mexico, this guy like hit the ground. Like he went to like markets and talked to people. He found collectors. Ultimately, a lot of our footage came from a collector, kind of experimental filmmaker who collected stuff on his travels around Mexico. And you had a very specific kind of vision for what you wanted it to look like, and the kind of Frida's perspective, I think, right? As if she was like looking at the world through her eyes. So, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, there's one over here.
So, did you work with like physical diaries, or you had scans? And also, how often did she write in her diaries?
Did you have the physical diaries, or was it scans you were working with? And how often, do you know how often Frida would write in her diaries?
You wanna answer the scan?
Sure, yeah. The actual diary is like under lock and key, and actually I think some of it is even split up and has been sold to various collectors. But we worked with scans.
And then what was the question?
How often did Frida write? How often did
Oh.
she make journal entries?
There's quite a bit of writing, but it's mostly kind of like loose thoughts. She's not really saying this is what happened to me today, or like this is the story of my life. And most of her writings really don't do that. So that was, I remember those sort of the, many conversations that we had with David. It's like, how do we trust to like be able to tell her story without, detailing things that happened to her, but really kind of lean into her emotions, because that's the material that we had of her. But her diary is mostly like poetry, but most of it is really illustrated. So, yeah.
Over here.
I would like to say that I feel you've created a work of art
Oh, thank you.
about a person. I mean, I have seen her work, admired her, but I really feel as though I got to know her in the most profound way, with the colors and the animation and her words and her paintings. I mean, it was so special. Thank you for creating a life and just a beautiful piece of art.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any last question? Okay, last question there in the back.